Hello.
Oh. All right, guys, we're recording. Hey, Thrift Boss Babes. I'm here with Dasha
Hi.
in Oklahoma. So we are chatting with you guys today just about Dasha's amazing consistency and results with her Instagram following for Red Key Thread. It's Red Key Threads Vintage, right?
Yes.
Good. I knew that. Red Key Threads Vintage, which if you guys aren't following her already, please go follow her on Instagram. So when Dasha entered Thrift Boss Babes, we were just getting to know each other, Dasha. I think you were hovering around 400, maybe 390.
Yeah, I looked back because I had been tracking it. In June, I was at like 300, or I think I was at like 200 in June, 300 in July. Like between then, that's where I was.
Well, that's amazing.
I don't remember exactly when Thrift Babes started. I think it was July, something like that.
Like
that's
July
where I was.
4th, right at the beginning. But
yeah,
end of story. You've either grown between 600 to 700 followers in 7 months, or less than 7 months, which is amazing. And so Dasha's here to spill some of her secrets and to talk to you honestly and authentically about what she decided was worth her time. And when it comes to growing your Instagram following, you have to remember, and she's going to talk more to this, that you do have to have trial and error mindset, and then also recognize that consistency wins the game. So what she's going to talk to us about is also some of the things that she noticed didn't work for her, but also where she might have continued to press forward because she knew, hey, this is the information that I've been absorbing and learning from other sources, so I'm going to keep going. So Dasha, I want to talk to you first. What was our first question? It was, when did you decide, because Dasha has another Instagram handle, I'll let her talk to you about that. When did you decide to level up Red Key Threads Vintage, and why did you decide that that was important for your business?
Sure. I would actually say that I knew from the beginning that Instagram was going to is really important for my shop. So I had started the Instagram in February of 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's when I essentially started my business. And so I knew that building an Instagram following was going to be important. I was lucky enough to have some following from my other more like blog fashion Instagram account already. So I think I picked up maybe like 200 followers from that already quickly. But then it essentially stalled, and I knew I had to do more to continue to build my following from then. But I knew that it was something that was important for me and something that I needed to invest my time into in order to be able to build a following and essentially sell from that following as well on Instagram.
So that's great. That's great to point out that the reason for building a community, which of course, guys, we're developing relationships where our souls are being nourished. There's so much more to what we do than just making money, but we have to make money. So the reason that Dasha, understood the value of Instagram is because ultimately she can find a customer base there and make money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say that it was really after I joined TBB. And if you remember, I had wanted feedback for my Instagram as far as what I was doing already, because I wasn't sure if it was working. I knew in my gut that something like wasn't really working there because I wasn't building as much as I wanted to. Right. So I wanted to ask for feedback. And it was after that and that feedback that I realized that I needed to change my strategy as far as what I was shooting and how I was communicating to my audience. My brand vision for Red Key Threads, that I essentially changed my strategy, and that's when I really started to see the pickup in my growth.
This is okay. So this isn't a question on my list, but I love what you just brought to our attention, which is what the Red Key Thread brand is. And I think a lot of times people don't know what that is until they figure it out and try and feel into themselves and also have some confidence, right? Because it's like for myself included, I use a lot of slang and I have confidence because I just know that that's who I am and I really don't care what people think, but it's taken some time. So Dasha, how would you describe your brand and just sort of the positioning of your social media to express that?
Yeah. So I think it's summed up in what my little headline is in my Instagram: fun, colorful, vintage for the modern gal. That's my tagline. I decided somewhat recently, like it's taken some time to build, but it's fun vintage for the modern gal. So essentially, I love print. I love bright color. You can see that right away when you go to my Instagram, that it's very fun and lively. But it was important for me to maintain a very modern approach to the pieces I picked. Yeah, they're very colorful already. The pieces I picked and how I styled them up. So that's what I wanted my Instagram to really portray, is that vintage can look modern, and you want to have fun with it. And that was my approach to it. And that's my brand vision now.
That's so awesome. And how has that sort of, I feel like there's like a word that I'm missing. It's like, how has that become infused? Such a good word, infused, into your captions?
Yeah. So the captions, I've had to play around with, but I also want to have fun with what I say. Well, the products would be fun. So that's why I wanted to have fun with what I say in the captions. And I will say though, that captions used to not be as important in Instagram when it first started. And it seems like, and I've heard this from a lot of, professionals that, grow with Instagram, that captions have becoming more and more important in the engagement you get with people. So I try to either make it funny or make it informational, more so than just saying, this is new, go check it out. And sometimes that works for people, but it just didn't work for me. So that's why I wanted to put in more of my voice into those captions.
Totally. And and this is just like spur of the moment. We'll just go to, okay, so wow, you have a video, your last post.
Oh yeah, that was my giveaway.
That's right. Go join the giveaway, guys. Okay, I'm gonna just choose one randomly.
Hopefully one that you pick actually makes sense for what I just said. I will say captions are the hardest for me. I will say though that captions are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really short form video, and she's stylized it. You can see with her hands, of her buttoning a green cardigan, and she has some really beautiful shots of her against the blue sky with this awesome green cardigan that I now won. And I didn't like this. I'm sorry. I just liked it. Okay. So this yummy green cardigan was missing its buttons, so I added these unique vintage metal buttons with a little pop at the top. I also bought a bunch of really cool vintage buttons, so get ready for some more #red key creations. And I think that's really cool that you're showing kind of behind the scenes of a vintage seller. What was your mindset when you were posting this? Why did you approach it this way?
Yeah. Well, so that cardigan, I did find without the buttons, and I just thought it was really cool to add these unique buttons to it. And I wanted my customer or whoever might be interested in this to know that, I added a personal touch to this item, and it's not something that you'll find anywhere else. And also to let them know that I added this myself. So it may not be perfect in a way. As far as how I sewed the buttons onto it, but it's just like a little behind the scenes of a vintage piece that I think adds more interest to it.
I was going to say, from my perspective, it's cool. It's very light, right? And you're not like super going into it. I mean, that was 2 sentences, I think, at most.
Yeah.
But it's a different way of marketing an item, and you're not even saying like, go buy it.
Right.
You're just describing it. And that little short video is really sexy because it's like how you stylize it, which we'll talk more about that later, makes it just like, okay, I really want to watch that. Oh, I want to swipe. Like, what does it look like? So let's go into the meat and potatoes of the interview. You've tried a lot. It's been 7 months. I'm sure you've wanted to throw your phone against the wall at some moments. But what are some strategies that you've taken on?
Yeah,
guys, I emphasize these words that have worked for you. Because of course, not everything's going to work for everyone. But what have you discovered works for you that really created results?
Sure. Yeah. So I wrote some steps down. So if I'm looking down, that's why. So I'm referring to them.
Awesome. Me too. I have questions right here, guys.
Yeah. So the first thing that I did was follow accounts that I admired. Well, one, follow that accounts that I admired that I wanted to mimic and were similar to my selling model. So I think those are like 3 different account types that I started following. So, accounts that I admired, I would study to understand how often they posted, what they posted, how they looked, how they portrayed their brand vision. So, for example, Coast to Coast Vintage, we all love, right? So that was a brand that I admired. I may not wanted to mimic her exactly, but I admired her. So then I started mimicking what she did. So I think that's another aspect of building your brand strategy and wanting to understand what works for you is just start doing what other people are doing that you admire or that you want to be doing similar to you. And then seeing if that works out. You'll obviously start to adjust what works best for you, and not necessarily what they're doing exactly, but it helps for you to understand what will work for your audience. And then similar to your selling model, so I sell vintage. So, and I sell off of Etsy and a website versus just Instagram. There are sellers that sell just on Instagram, and their selling strategy and their Instagram model is going to be a little bit different from mine because they'll just put up an image. Their caption is very simple as far as like explaining it, pricing, all of that stuff, versus a more lifestyle approach and a more stylized editorial approach to their Instagram. It's going to be different. But if you want to do that, those are definitely the accounts that you would want to follow and you would want to mimic exactly. And studying how often they post and what they do in their stories and whatnot, all these types of things. So that's like the first thing that I did.
Great.
When I wanted to really build my Instagram. And then the second thing is, like I said, is starting to experiment with post ideas, posting styling posts on there, not selling at all, just like, or, this is a piece you can style it 3 different ways. Those are different post ideas. Just popping up an image and saying, this is for sale. See how that works. Shooting on yourself, shooting a still, shooting outside. Again, there's so many different post ideas that you can get from those accounts that you follow or just from your head, whatever it is, but start to experiment with those and seeing what your audience really attaches to. That's another one. And then we talked briefly, but identifying your brand identity and your voice is going to be really important. And so once I did that and once I stuck to that, you start to gain the followers that will appreciate your brand identity. You can't be everything for everyone. And that is hardest for me because I like a lot of things and my style is also fairly eclectic and my vintage is somewhat eclectic, but there is still a identity that you have to follow. My style isn't going to be neutral. And while I introduce neutrals into my stuff, I also have to maintain a colorful aesthetic. So I might shoot something neutral against a bright background or something like that. So it works.
Notice that.
Because, that's just what my followers appreciate.
So this is like neutral, really, really fast. It's like a neutral on top. I mean, it's beautiful. It's definitely special.
Yep.
It looks like you intentionally shot that against the pink.
Yes. And that was for Valentine's Day. And I kind of, I post new products every week. So I'll shoot kind of an aesthetic of the collection for that week. And then I post from there. I'll get into that a little bit later. But another thing, the 4th thing that I did that I found to be very important to me was unfollowing unengaging accounts.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this to you, Sammy, before. And that was something that I had started seeing other like bloggers doing. They started mentioning this, that they are starting to unfollow unengaging accounts. And to briefly explain how Instagram works and why this is really important to you, is because the algorithm, so the Instagram algorithm, as many of you have probably heard, how it works is that it'll show your post to 10% of your audience, of your followers. And based on how that 10% engages in your post, the algorithm will determine whether or not it wants to show it to more people. So more of your followers, and also more other people that the Instagram may think will want to follow you. So if that 10% doesn't engage, the Instagram stops showing it. So what I realize is that if it's showing it to 10% of those followers, that those accounts that don't engage at all, then it's just screwing me up. And it's not really an indication of whether or not my followers like my post. It's showing it to people that are never going to engage. So then I went through and I just started, I unfollowed all of them. And I saw a bump, like I saw a significant bump in my next post.
Wow.
When I did that.
Quick question. So these are typically bots that you're unfollowing?
Yeah, they could be bots. They
Or
could
brands?
be like
small businesses.
What I started noticing is when I was hashtagging a lot of Etsy things, like Etsy small business, Etsy shop, I would get a lot of those accounts that wanted to like showcase your shop, like Etsy accounts that were like marketing like aspects.
Yeah, compilation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they don't engage with you. They just, they are basically a scam. So they don't engage with you. But I was getting a lot of those followers. There are also real accounts, but they'll use bots to follow a bunch of people and then they'll unfollow you.
Right.
Kind of thing. And so they don't engage either. So yeah, those are the kind of the accounts that I started unfollowing. And then sometimes if it, like an account looks like the name looks kind of weird and you go onto their Instagram and they have no posts, yeah, you want to unfollow them too.
Totally. Now, do I, cause I'm like going through my followers.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
So like I found one person right away.
Yeah.
Because there's no photo and it says no, and there's no post. I'm not following this person, but I've noticed that I can delete followers now.
Yeah.
So literally if you guys go to these 3 buttons right there, you can go to remove follower. Do you think that helps? Because I don't think they're engaging with my stuff.
Yeah, no, that's how you do it. So that's how you remove their follower. Yeah. So and they don't get
following you.
Yeah. They don't get the notification. So they don't know that you unfollowed them, that you removed them as a follower.
So it's even more than just because I have been unfollowing people because I've collected random people in my life and I want to see you guys all the time. And I want to see, like you mentioned, Dasha, people that I admire, but I'm still following 1,567 people. But as I see them, what's interesting is like, because I've been unfollowing more people that I wasn't seeing for years are showing up because Instagram is showing them to me again. Yeah. But I'm not deleting them as followers of me. So you're actually suggesting to do both.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Followers of you, because those are the people, those are the accounts that Instagram is going to show your posts to. And it picks like random well, not so random, but it picks 10% of your audience at first. And then that 10% is usually your loyal followers, and then it continues. So once, if it shows to another 20% and then it picks those followers that don't engage with you, then it essentially puts a kibosh on your post and it won't show it.
Now, crazy question, or not crazy question. You're set up as a business account on Instagram, right?
Yes.
How do you use your insights for your?
I don't really. I don't really trust Instagram Insights as much as I used to. It'll definitely tell you which posts are most engaging. It's good. I wouldn't say that it's like worthless.
Yeah.
but there's so many metrics to determine which, a post, based on likes, followers, engagement, website clicks. There's so many things, and that's definitely interesting to find out, and just to understand what's working and what's not. But for me, I could tell right away what's been working. So maybe I'll look at those like quarterly, just to determine based on like an overall view, like what you see is working, what's not. Oh, that is the heater, guys.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool. So we're going to pause the recording for a second, and then we'll be right back because Dasha has to answer the door. Okay, guys, we're back. We're talking to Dasha about what works for her, or what she's noticed works for her in the past 7 months to consistently grow her following. We were just last talking about unfollowing accounts that are not engaging with you. If you guys have any questions about that, I know we were really getting into it, just comment below, but we're going to keep moving. So Dasha, take it away.
Yeah. Okay, so after, the unfollowing engaging accounts, right? So you're going to start to build a follower base that will engage with you. So the next step that I have been doing, and this is kind of general Instagram etiquette, I guess you could say, is to start following people that are similar to you and that you would want to be following you. Because it's just, if you start following 100 people, you may get, at least 10 of them to start following you, because they'll see that you follow them. They'll check out your Instagram. And that's where it's important to kind of, to start building your Instagram vision and your aesthetic before you start doing this, because they will go to your Instagram. They'll see it, whether or not they would want to follow you before. And if you don't have an engaging Instagram, then they won't follow you. Yeah. So that's why it kind of has to like work first, that you want to start building how your Instagram looks in order for the people that you want to follow you to actually start following you.
Got it.
Yeah. So following similar accounts, and then just engaging with your followers too. Yeah. Instagram really likes it when you engage with your followers. There's this funny thing. I think, I don't know if I said it to you or I said it to someone. I heard this somewhere, so I didn't make this up. But they say not to post and ghost.
Yeah.
So what a lot of like big bloggers will do is they'll set up like 30 minutes. You may not need to go as far as 30 minutes, but once they post, they take the time to go through their Instagram and engage with followers, like posts, like they interact on their Instagram right after posting, because Instagram really likes that. And so either the people that you are liking, they'll see that you're liking them, so then they'll go onto your page and see what you're doing, and then therefore they may be liking, they'll like your post, and then I think Instagram just will show your post more, because the algorithm sees that you're an engaging account, and so it's more likely for them to show your post. I noticed that, because I don't do that all the time, because sometimes I'm just like, I just need to get it up there if I'm like busy doing stuff, but I'll definitely notice that if I engage right after I post, that I get a better engagement with my post than if I don't.
I love this. Guys, my mind is blown, because essentially what Dasha is saying is it's not even on that post that you just made, because it might take some time for people to start seeing it. It's to actually give yourself, okay, every time I post on Instagram, this is my 30 minutes of Instagram time.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to go through my feed. I'm going to check Thrift Boss Babes, our awesome Instagram pod, which I need to go check, by the way, because there's like 5 new posts. I'm like, but that's why I love that pod, because it's a gentle reminder for us to be doing what Dasha is saying, which is like, you only get what you give. So to go and to love on other people, and make that time and go back to your DMs and things like that, and just give yourself 30 minutes. So it's not spread across the whole day where it's a little overwhelming because you're distracted from an activity.
Right.
That's a great benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, don't post and ghost. It's always a reminder. And then the last thing is to post often. We talked about consistency. Consistency is also very important, but one further step is to actually be posting often. And that's where Instagram becomes a time commitment, because you're going to need the content and the posts in order to be posting often.
Yeah.
So this account that I follow, it's a vintage store called My Mother's Amour, or Armoire. She no longer does that Instagram anymore. Her mom does. So it's a little bit different. If you start following her, it's a little bit different. But she has a huge following. And she also likes to talk about what she does on Instagram. So that's why I learned a lot of them from her. But she also does say post often. And for her, she says, if you think you're posting too much, post more. Because again, it goes back to that 10%. Oh, sorry. If Instagram is only showing your post at 10% of your audience, and at max, if you see that reach, like we were talking about in the insights, you see that reach, it's not going to reach all of your followers ever. So it may be at max, if it's a really engaging post, reach half of your followers. So that's why she says, like, if there's a really important event or something that you want people to see, you want to be posting often, like throughout the day, 3 times a day, kind of thing. Because that's where you're really going to meet the most amount of followers.
Nice.
And each post may not be getting a huge reach or a huge engagement, but if you post a lot of them, then you end up reaching a lot of your followers in totality, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what I did is, I post at least once a day. If I can get it to once a day, I definitely post at least once a day. Most days I post twice a day. And there's on occasion, like a Thursday is when I post all my new arrivals. I try to post 3 times a day if I have the content.
The event.
Yeah.
Hey guys, here's my new arrivals. You might not see the first post, but you might see the last one.
Exactly.
And then you might go back to my feed and see the other 2 posts.
Exactly. Yeah. Essentially, you don't want to get forgotten by your audience. Like, you want to be there all the time.
Don't forget about me.
Yeah. You don't want to get forgotten, because I'm sure you've seen, if you don't post, Instagram sees you as an unengaging account, and they just won't show your post.
Right.
It's this algorithm that really sucks, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
So if Instagram knows that you're constantly engaged on your Instagram, then it will show your post.
Yeah.
And then you'll get followers that way.
And I think just to like build upon this, because it's like, even as I like listen to you, and I've been on social media since, the days of whatever, like the first blogs.
Yeah.
There's anxiety around it, right? Like, I haven't posted to stories for 2 days, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, Instagram's gonna stop promoting me. But it really does come down to like looking at Instagram as a reflection of your life, if this is what you're choosing to use in your life, because of course no one's forcing you to use social media. But like, if I sat in silence around people for 2 days straight, you bet they would be like, all right, I'm not gonna talk to her anymore. It's been 2 days straight. Like, if you kind of do that as a metaphor. So on Instagram, I'm just like not posting, not talking for 2 days straight. And you look at that the same as if you were just sitting in a room of people for 2 days and you weren't saying a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's a marketing channel. It's, and so if you think about ads on TV, people, those companies, they're like constantly showing
the same
their ads, so that when you think of something to buy, the first thing that comes to mind is them, because they're in your face at all times. And so that's essentially what you want to be, is in their face at all times. Now, it's important to make sure that the posts are good posts and that your audience will want to see them. But at the end, so that there's a balance there. You don't just want to post just to post, because that's also a bad thing. So once you find that engaging content, then that's when you want to start ramping it up and showing it to people. Awesome.
What's some type of content that you've noticed, just to be specific, is really engaging for you?
So what's that?
Well, I just kind of like rephrased it. What are your winners?
Yeah. Showing my face is always the biggest winner.
Awesome. Okay.
it kind of, I mean, it's hard when you may not want to be the face of your brand, or you're not able to. I mean, I am not a model by no means. And I think I became more comfortable with modeling because of my blog's Instagram, and I started doing that before I started the store. So at least I became a little bit more comfortable doing that, but it is by no means like a thing that I would love to do for an extended period of time. So I want to start finding models, but faces are always most engaging to people.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever face you want to find, that will always be the most engaging. And for me, color is also most engaging, but that's because my audience likes color. And other like your customers, that's what I should say. Your customers have also been the biggest winners. So at the end of the year, it was, Christmas time. So I didn't have content because I put a pause on new arrivals and I was at home. So, I didn't have any of my own content created for that. So I decided to post pictures of my customers that either will have shown use my item for Instagram or whatnot. So I had an accumulation of that. So I decided that I'm going to post those at the end of the year as kind of a thank you. And then the top 9, everyone knows, I think, about the top 9, or your most liked or your biggest post for the year. And I showed my customers at the last week of the year, and they became my top post for the entire year.
I mean,
yeah. So that's how big those posts were, and they were very important. So those have that, like those 3 are always going to be winners for me. So if you see my face, that's always going to be the most. And on top of that, like market photos have been my top posts also. In front of like my pop-ups or whatever. Mm-hmm. Those have always been the most engaging. Mm-hmm. And so followers or my customers. Mm-hmm. Well, I forgot the third one, but
kind of did too.
Yeah. Anyway, those two are always face and your customers.
Face, customers, and you kind of like out there in the wild, right? So I think I would argue that if you were at a vintage store, whatever, having fun, or at a thrift store having fun.
Yeah. Oh, color. That was the other thing. Color for me, personally, for my brand, personally, color.
Yeah. It's so funny because I think sometimes we just like want to overcomplicate things, but as soon as we notice that something's working, it's kind of like just keep doing it, So it, of course, like things change and whatever, like social media trends change. But just as like an example, to piggyback off of what Dasha's saying, my strength has always been video, and I actually posted like 5 videos in a row. I was like, let's just see what happens. All my engagements up, and I received 2 emails from these small like micro influencer agencies saying like, do you want to sign up for, ad sponsored stuff? And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So for me, it's, I actually have a new social media like strategy that I haven't quite picked up, but I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to people's closets and just start doing closet hauls with them to showcase the style of like thrift New Yorkers and vintage loving New Yorkers. And just schedule that out and like have a bunch backpiled. So if you are overwhelmed with social media and you're like, yeah, but I noticed this works, like whatever you can do to just kind of stockpile. So this is kind of like a new question for you, Dasha, but how are you, and I think I asked it at some point, but like, how are you structuring your life and your day to get the most content and to maximize your time when you are creating content so that you can post once or twice a day?
Yeah.
Quality content.
Yeah. So, my week, I'm like a very scheduled planner person. So I definitely schedule out my week as far as how I shoot and whatnot. So on Mondays, today's Tuesday. So on Mondays is I take my time. And that is when I decide what I'm going to list for the week, and take my photos for like product shots. And I've been using a mannequin now. She's behind me. So now I've been using a mannequin for like, just like straight up product shots. So I do all of that on Monday. then on Tuesday is when I'll kind of like either edit the photos or finish up the listings.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wednesday morning is when I take my Instagram photo. And so I will try to get at least 5 outfits.
Wow.
Out of that morning. And it takes me like an hour and a half, I think, to shoot them now. And I shoot them myself.
And you're changing the car?
I change in the car. Yeah. I try to find a really nondescript parking lot or somewhere that I can change. And if you go out in the morning, it is a lot easier because, you know, people aren't out and about. The shops aren't open. Like, and I say like 9 o'clock, like 9:30 is when I go in the morning, and the light is the best at that time. And so, yeah, changing my car, I have a tripod, and then I kind of shoot away and take those shots. So for me, what I realized is that instead of trying to model all of the product myself, because not all of it will fit me. And then, you know, I'm just not comfortable as a model. And it was just like, it was taking up too much time to get those shots. And then they weren't turning out as well as I would have liked them to. And I had been using them early on for my Instagram. It just wasn't working. And so I decided that I would just shoot them on a mannequin, get those so that people can see what it actually looks like plainly. And then I would invest the time to shoot them on me, or, you know, out in the wild for Instagram, that way to engage my followers and build engaging content.
Got it.
For my Instagram.
Got it. So you're picking the best pieces that work on your body to create that engaging content.
Yes.
And you're shooting everything else on the mannequin?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, shoot. And then I also will shoot like product images also, like, I'll intersperse some detail shots, some close-ups, things that, you know, may look nice, and they won't be the most engaging by any means. But that's where it's like, yeah, I mean, that one actually worked really well. So now I know that if I wanted to shoot a product shot, then maybe a video would work, because that was actually really engaging for a product shot. That was a really good post.
Yeah.
So, you know, products in the wild, if you don't want to shoot them, on you, or, you know, just to mix it up. I think I don't really want to show my face all the time. So that's why I like to mix it up with product images. But then there's that one. Yeah.
That's announcing a sale. So that was just like a attention grabbing photo.
Yeah.
There's another.
Yeah.
Attention grabbing photos. And I like how you're not doing it straight on. Like you play with angles.
Yeah. I also, to do that, I started following actual brands that I wanted to mimic. So an aesthetic that I want to portray with my brand is something that like Madewell does.
Oh.
Like Madewell and Aerie, I started looking at how they shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really fun, exciting, happy. Like all of those words is what I want to portray. So I started to look to see what kind of angles they do, how they shoot. And so that's why I've been trying to like mimic it that way.
You are Madewell. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Madewell.
Yeah. And so, you know, you can see like they're all of their models aren't looking at the camera, you know, interesting angles. Yeah, things like that. Like how do you want to show your product the best, but then make it exciting? Well, I mean, for me, because I'm the model, so then I have to see how like things are modeling, and then I also have to position the camera in a way, because I'm also the photographer.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to it. But no, that's great advice. Just to recap, Dash is saying that, you know, in addition to following resellers whom you admire and who seem to have a very strategic Instagram strategy, which you'll know straight up if they have a high engagement, also follow brands that you feel you aspire to be. And I mean more in feeling than like product and price point, but
right.
Yeah, that's great advice. Like, I think for me, I haven't looked at Betsy Johnson for a while, but definitely like a Betsy Johnson vibe would be I would assume would be close to my brand. I also adore June Ambrose. She's a stylist. Do you follow her?
No, I don't.
June Ambrose. So she does something that I haven't experimented with, but she does high-speed try-ons.
Oh, yeah, those are good. Yeah.
And I'm just like, gosh, like when I have the time to do that, which I haven't made the time, but it's something I'd like to experiment because again, video is my strength. So if Instagram likes me on video, I'm like, I guess logically they would promote this, even though it's not me talking.
Right.
So
yeah, I've actually seen a lot of people do that. More of just like high speed, either styling ideas or outfits or something like that. So I want to sort of incorporate that also, because at least it's like quicker. You don't have to talk through it or whatnot. So it's like really quick. And people usually don't have that much time on Instagram to watch like a full Instagram IGTV. So I think those things are really engaging.
I'm gonna find Ash has been one for a while, I guess. Here we go. I mean, she's definitely naked, at the beginning, in the sense that she's in her underwear, but she's got a great body. So obviously this isn't for everyone.
Yeah, I know.
To start in your bras and in underwear, but you can do something like this.
Yeah. So that's fun. And like, it's fast and you're like, whoa. And so you just keep watching it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're here on this interview watching it. Okay. So we've got like two more like really big questions. The one question that I want to ask, just because I struggle with this, and I just say this to like humanize everything that we're all trying to learn how to do, is that like no one has everything figured out. But what do you do, Dasha, when like you make a post, or at the beginning maybe, and you were making these posts, these trial and error posts, and like it was crickets? Do you archive? Do you delete? How did you move forward with just that energy of like, this isn't working?
Yes, I archived. Once I once I got enough posts with the aesthetic that I liked and that was more engaging, I started to archive everything else, just because it wasn't like working well. And now I know if a post doesn't do well, like I know right away. Yeah. And so it depends on I guess like what I was trying to get out of that post. So if it was something that I was trying to do different, like new, and it wasn't working, then I know I'm just going to move on. I'm going to try something else. But if it's something that I just wanted to introduce to break up my Instagram feed, but like it wasn't a post that I necessarily knew I was going to get huge engagement out of, but I still wanted to do, then I'll still put it up. But what someone said is like, you bookmark it with 2 posts that are going to be really engaging. So like within don't make it your one post for that day. Yeah. Because that day is kind of not going to be very engaging. So if you want to put it up, like usually I try to, as much as I can, if it's going to be a post I know it's not going to be the most engaging, I'll put it up in the morning because I get the best engagement at the end of the day. And I'll tell you how I know that later. Once we get into the apps that I use. But that's what I do. Like my best engagement happens at the end of the day. So I try to post the images of my face, or, a big sale, post or something like that I know I want a lot of people to see. I'll post at the end of the day. And then I'll post like the other one in the beginning of the day.
I love that. And I've seen that work with me too, where if I have 2 to 3 posts a day, which we were kind of talking about earlier, right? With like, if it's a big event, have 3 posts, but just a different spin off of what I've seen. I make a post 10 a.m., right? It has some engagement, whatever, it's fine. Make one at 4, it does a lot better. Yeah. My engagement's better 5 o'clock or later, actually up till like 10:30. It's weird. Like I'll post at 10:30 and it'll explode. Yeah. And then that previous post, it's like people find it because I made a second post. And then if I make a 3rd post, then those 2 previous posts also rise. And it's like a 24-hour all tides rise experience, where the next day I'm noticing people are still finding, because the way Instagram promotes your post is they'll promote it to the top of someone's feed like a day later. Yeah. If it's doing well. Right. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Talk to us about your apps. And
Yeah,
what do you use and why do you use it and how do you use it?
sure. Yeah. So the newest app that I started using is called When to Post.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. It's the most simplest app ever.
No.
It's not fancy at all. But it just tells you the 3 biggest times
Okay.
that that your post is going to perform the best. And so far it's worked really well for me, and it's different than what Instagram tells you, which is why that's it.
Guys.
When to post.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's there's kind of like some like bars, and it like the most green is going to be your like most engagement, but it gives you 3 times throughout the day of when best to post.
Wow.
And it's worked. And so, like I said, it's different from Instagram. So I wouldn't really, I don't follow the Instagram times anymore.
Yeah.
Because I find that they don't work as well for me. So when to post, get it, use it. I love it. So once you have that, the other app I use, it's a planning app. So there's so many out there.
Yeah.
I use Preview.
Yeah.
That one's pretty simple. You put so that's when when I get all of those images that I shot that day, then I'll pop in the images. Yeah, that one. I'll pop in the images into that planner, kind of plan it out how I want it to look. And then you can set up a reminder. It doesn't automatically post for me, but it just reminds me to post.
So the reason that she does this, guys, is, and we didn't really talk about this, but she is following a little, I mean, let's expand upon this. You are following, like, there's some more greens, and you've got your purples and your blues, and then
there's like I try to make keep somewhat of an aesthetic, a flow of images. Like right now, I'm alternating a model shot with a product shot, product shot. You can kind of see that, like far away, close up. Like it's not so aesthetically perfect because that's not my brand either.
There's something there.
Yeah, it's still like nice to look at.
Much more than mine.
But
I'm not following that. So
that, but you don't necessarily have to follow it that way. I like it. It just makes me feel better for myself. So that's why
it's the right way. It's the right way because what Dasha's saying is, like, as followers find you, there is this kind of like snap first impression, like a dating app where they're like, yay or nay.
Yeah.
And the coordinated colors, there is just something psychological about that. So
yeah. So that's why I use that planning app. And that's where I put it in. So when, I look to see the when to post tells me to post at 10:30, which I've missed today's time, but that's okay. I'll post it later.
We were talking.
It's a morning post. So that one I could do a little bit later. But it has 3 times, which is good because I was only posting twice today. But so I see it, it says to post at 10:30, that I go to my preview, I'll set up that, I usually set it up like 5 minutes before it says to post to give me enough time to check my caption, to get it up there, put in my hashtags, all of that stuff. I'm really bad at planning captions just because for me, they're like easiest last minute.
Yeah.
I try my hardest to pre-plan my captions if I can, but usually I have like no idea as to what I want to say until like 5 minutes before. So that's why I like to set it up a little bit earlier so I can either write a caption or like put in my hashtags and then I'll post it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been experimenting with long and short captions myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on what you want to say.
Yeah.
I also have started, I have like a schedule of what kind of posts I want to post also. I don't have my notebook with me to show you, but basically like, I'll say on Monday, I want it to be a motivational quote and, a customer image. And then on Tuesday, it'll be just a styling idea or like a fun fact or something like that, just so I have an idea of what I wanted to talk about. And then that'll be easier for me to get an image that relates to it
Right.
that way. I mean, it doesn't always work out perfectly, but at least there's like a foundation, a framework of what I want my posts to be and what the caption should be and what kind of content I want to be talking about, so that I'm not like going crazy that day, be like, oh my God, what do I post? I don't know what to post.
Exactly. And, you know, Dash is really talking about like a vintage store brand, where I know some of us are more engaged as people, but it's good to have this mindset as well, because there's only so many days that you can grab a photo of your outfits for the moment, which is what I did this morning. Was it the best shot? No. But thinking on your feet is important. But at the end of the day, like some days, like literally, like we all know we're not out and about. We're like living our lives, and there's really nothing to share unless you're really coming at it from like, okay, I've pre-planned this. I've had my day of shooting, or I know that, okay, there's a motivational quote for this day, or what have you. And now you're also talking too, because you just mentioned it, about how, and I'm going to go back to your feed, you're doing a face, a product, and then a face.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a particular reason that you're doing it that way? Just to be...
Well, because so last week, was when I put up a lot of Valentine's Day product, and I had a lot of accessories. So I wanted to showcase those accessories. And honestly, it's just aesthetically, I like it that way.
Okay.
There's really like, no, as far as like what works and what doesn't, I just know that a bunch of, product shots aren't going to work for me. So I need to like put in some faces, and I didn't have, I wasn't able to shoot as many images on me as I wanted to, in order to get all of those, all of that content for the week. And because I had a lot of accessories launching last week, I wanted to show those. So then I kind of did a, balance of those two.
Yeah, no, it looks great.
So that's for this week, and or last week, and this week will be something different. But I do like to alternate on model and detail shots, just because I'm not going to get 20 shots of me at all.
Yeah. And again, it's that all tides rise, where like, people might prefer looking at you, and they missed the purse for whatever reason, and then I don't know, the purse is shown to them and they like it, or they go back to your feed to see what else they missed, and then it's like it's a purse, but she says, behind every successful woman is a fabulous bag. Happy Monday, all you fabulous successful people, which is like a motivational quote, like you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So that I found works, is a motivational quote, and that's pretty easy as far as a caption goes. Find a quote for the day, and that's like really easy content that I found that also works. And actually, another thing that I wanted to say that worked for me is inspirational photos. So that is a pretty easy content to find, that I find has high engagement. Yeah. So now, this is specific vintage for my brand. Obviously, vintage photos is what I'm going to show. But that type of content worked really well. And once I did that, I saw really high engagement with it. So then I started to consistently post it every Tuesday night is when I'll do that one.
It's awesome that you're like, every Tuesday night I'm doing this.
Yes, every Tuesday night.
It's so great. And you're actually just keeping track in a notebook.
Yes.
So cool.
I have a bullet journal.
Love it.
Yeah. And I personally, for me, I try to coordinate the imagery with what my new arrivals are going to look like.
Okay.
So that everything is like aesthetically pleasing together, and it works well. But that's me. That's what works for me. And that's what I like to look at. So that's what makes me happy.
Again, this is all food for thought, guys. So Dasha, we talked about when to post, the preview app, any of that you're just rocking.
Sorry, a few more for apps.
Yeah.
that I use. Canva
Mm-hmm.
I've been using. And so that helps for like stories and any type of, you know, verbiage, if you want to create any verbiage, and keeping a singular font aesthetic is really important for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they have free options. You don't have to pay for that. If you want to pay for it, that's fine. I don't pay for it. There's like I think a free month trial or week trial or something like that, that you can use. And I actually created my logo that way, and I saved all of those options for my logo, because then I can't use that font anymore because I have to pay for it. But that's okay. So I kind of like created all of those, and that's what I use for any kind of like fancy stuff. I use Canva now.
Nice.
Yeah. So sorry, you asked me about any other posts or
any other apps.
Oh, any other apps?
Yeah.
No, that was it. Preview, InShot, Canva, and When to Post are like my 4 biggest apps that I use as far as like Instagram. I use Lightroom to edit. Oh yeah, InShot.
For videos. Yeah.
For videos, right.
And Lightroom.
I use Lightroom to edit my photos. Now that's for like photo editing, and I always edit my photos. So this is like separate from just like gaining new followers, but I never post the image as is, as caption.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
There's always some editing, tweaking going on.
And that's definitely something that I personally just lightly edit in my, just like in here. Like I just go to edit, and we're talking iPhone edits. So that's definitely something, again, like as you guys think to yourself, okay, how do I really want to level up? Like you might already be doing what I'm doing, but to think as Dasha's brain and be like, okay, like how can I consistently make my photos look the same, and then also create this grid that there's some sort of color coordination or some sort of flow, so that when people pop onto it, it looks good in totality, like you said earlier. So again, it's like it's taking baby steps to really make things normal for you, because it's really just about normalizing it. But back to you, Dasha, just to end, because we covered a lot of ground, and like some of the things that Dasha has been doing, like she's doing a giveaway right now, which I encourage you guys to go check out. It's either going to be like her last post or the post before, because I'm posting the video tonight. We're interviewing in the morning. But so there's a lot that she could still cover ground about that's like very, very, very advanced. But for the most part, this is a very like next level conversation about Instagram. But is there anything else that you feel you'd want to share just based off of our conversation?
Yeah, I would say just keep doing it. Like, don't give up on Instagram. It is really important to have an Instagram presence, and to have a following, because at the end of the day, like everyone's on Instagram, always on Instagram. And that's where you're going to capture your most loyal followers and people on there.
Yeah.
Whether they buy from you, whether they find out about all your latest events, like new arrivals, it's another marketing tool, and it's one of the best marketing tools out there these days. So that's why I just don't give up on it and just keep doing it. And it's you don't have to be perfect right away. Like when I started, my Instagram did not look good at all. And you just have to be consistent and persistent on how posting, and trying different things. And once you find something that works, keep doing that. And then just keep trying new things. So I would say don't give up on it, and keep trying it. And then I was talking with Sammy a little bit earlier, but these days it's about quality over quantity. So it's not just about the amount of followers you have, but it's the type of followers you have, and you want to make sure you have engaging followers. So that's why we talk about, have unfollowing, removing followers that don't engage with you, because there's a ton of accounts out there that have 5,000 followers, and they sell their stuff like that because their followers are really engaging, and they don't have to hashtag nothing. They love them because their followers are really engaging. And there's people that have 10,000 followers and they don't really do anything. So it's not really about the amount of followers, it's the type of followers you get. So for me, something I actually wanted to mention before is I gained the best followers from my pop-ups. So it's something Jamie had mentioned from Coast to Coast Vintage that I didn't do. And that was starting your brand person to person, you know, like in person, getting those people to follow you. And that's when I really started to gain people that actually wanted to buy from me. It was from pop-ups.
Right.
So any way you can get in front of people, for me, has been the best way of getting followers. So, and then lastly, I would just say there's no one way of doing it right. So these are the things that work for me because they work for my brand the best and my lifestyle the best and how I want to showcase my brand and how I'm going to be happy with it at the end of the day. I think, you know, that's the biggest thing. There's always a niche for everyone and a vision for everyone, and you're not going to be everything for everyone. And, you know, if you're comfortable, you know, showing your lingerie that way really quickly.
Yeah.
That works for you. You don't have to do that at all. Like, you know, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do it. And I'm going to find ways of engaging my followers differently. There's people that sell, excuse me, on Instagram, and they only show product shots.
Yeah.
And they do really well that way. They have really, you know, really great product, and their followers love it that way. And I'm jealous of them because it's a lot easier than having to shoot it on myself. And, you know, getting all these like, you know, fun shots and whatnot, it's a lot easier. But that's just that they were able to build their following from markets or, yeah. Who's that? Oh,
Butchwax.
is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she, I mean, you know, she shoots them on herself, and there's definitely a sex appeal to that, and it really works for her. There's a seller called Seasons of Vintage that I follow. She does all of it on mannequins, and her products are really engaging. And I like her post because I like looking at that image, but it's all product shots. I follow Omnia Clothing, and she just shoots hers on models, but it's all studio imagery. So, and that's what works for her. You know, Jamie from Coast to Coast Vintage shoots it on herself, and that also, and she just posts it that way, and that works for her. Yeah, that's Omnia. But she goes to markets and she does the Brooklyn flea every weekend. Yeah. And that's how she got her followers. And, you know, and she sent out an email for her website and all that stuff. So like, and there's so many different ways of building your following and building your Instagram. That's why I say like follow people that you want to mimic and then try what works for you. And there's not going to be one right way for anyone. There's just like certain aspects that are going to work and are going to build your following. But at the end of the day, it's what's most engaging and the content that works for you.
And, you know, back to the whole reason that a lot of your followers from markets are engaging with you and potentially buying from you on Instagram, even though they didn't buy from you at the market, which sometimes that happens, but they still follow you. It's because they've created some sort of no trust like relationship with you. So it comes back to, again, this, like, it is marketing, but it's a conversation. So continuing to build Instagram, again, where you're not posting and ghosting, so that you're establishing no trust like, because of course, like, you can take the most beautiful photo, you're amazing, you're beautiful, but if you don't create a no trust like relationship, like, it's just a great photo.
Yeah.
So, you know, people that no trust like me, like, will talk to me. And, you know, well, I mean, I talk to them, and then there's no trust like, and then I feel more comfortable even asking them to like participate in something or. So so it's, you know, like, I'm going to the Manhattan Vintage Show next week because I want to meet more people to interview. And I'm like, yeah, I can like DM these people I don't know, but like, there's a chance that it's just not going to go anywhere. So it's better for me to create a no trust like relationship. So however that shows up for you guys, basically just don't feel bad if you're doing a market or something and you're not making sales, because those people can follow you on Instagram. And if you have a strategy, they can buy from you later.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So this has been great. We definitely chatted an hour.
Okay. I have so much to say about Instagram.
That's what I was going to say. It's like next level stuff, and there's even more. So guys, I mentioned to Dasha at the top of this, like, you know, if you have questions, ask in the comments, but obviously, like, you know, she's not being paid for this, like she's giving her advice and her time. But I would recommend going, you know, to her feed and really studying it if you haven't. And if Dasha has time, she'll go back to your questions. So thank you so much for your advice.
Of course. Great. It was my pleasure.
Seriously, like this was invaluable stuff. So everyone, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.